Coalition governments are causing disorder, disarray, confusion and instability in our country. That's according to leadership expert Professor Mazwe Majola. The cities of Tshwane, Joburg and Ekurhuleni have been embroiled in squabbles, with motions being brought against mayors. Majola says the country faces disastrous instability post the 2024 general elections if it is governed by a coalition government. He joins me now for more on this. Thank you very much, Prof, for your time here on eNCA. Firstly, do you think the President, Home Affairs, Parliament actually missed an opportunity with the electoral amendment bill that was signed into law by the President yesterday to ensure that at least that part also assists in making sure that coalition governments work and you don't find political parties fighting for positions and still horse trading at a level after the electorate has decided?
Good day, and thank you very much. I don't know how it's going to be done. It's one thing to have a piece of paper or a law in place, and it's one thing for people who should be executing that, doing that. It's my humble submission that South Africa, as things stand now, it's not ready for coalition government, because you have political leaders who are still not matured enough to deal with this system. Our political leaders are full of themselves, are full of self-importance, arrogance, and self-interest and self-serving. They are not there for serving people. So it's really going to be a disaster in 2024 or post-2024 if our country is led by a coalition government. Given to what is happening in our municipalities, it will be a disorder of higher degree and it will be a confusion. Ideally, it will be much better if one party wins with an outright majority.
And this is because political parties in South Africa are used to the politics of power. And that's why we find ourselves where we are in the cities that I've mentioned.
Absolutely. For them, it's more about power. It's not about serving the people. It's about them. It's about individuals. It's about politicians themselves. So if we can go or after 2024, and then we find ourselves where organization or the political parties must lead this country at a national level and a provisional level using coalition system, that will be a disaster. Our leaders are not ready. They are more about power, they are more about positions, they are more about self-interest, about titles, they are more about themselves more than about the people who they should be serving. So I am very worried what is going to happen post-1994 if really we'll be going for a coalition government.
And I think you meant to say you're worried about what's going to happen post-2024, and that is quite close. And looking at the voter turnouts during municipal elections, how all governments have been, or rather how all political parties have been performing in the last 3 years or so, many South Africans are still very despondent, not only against the governing party. So what will happen if we find ourselves where the ANC is below 50% or below 51% and a coalition has to happen, because then we will find ourselves again looking at horse trading. So maybe the electoral system itself in South Africa is incorrect.
Look, from leadership point of view, I still believe that ANC can still win the election with an outright majority. Actually, the arch enemy of ANC is ANC itself. If ANC failed to reach 50% or the required percentages to win outrightly, it will be ANC that failed itself, because really they still do have opportunity to do that. However, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of introspection. It's going to take a lot of accountability, and it's going to take a lot of transparency. They must be able to find one another, to speak to one another, to look into itself as an organization and say, what is it that make people to run away from us? How can we bring them back? And they must be honest about that, because unfortunately, we are in a position now, in a phase where you cannot fool South Africans anymore. South Africans, they see, they know what is right and what is not, what is wrong. So it's very, very important for ANC to clean its house and put its house in order. Failing which, definitely it will be very, very difficult, because now then we find one organization chasing another party to try to forge this forced marriage. Because for me, really, coalition is about forced marriage. I know that people are arguing, and maybe rightly so, that South Africa, we cannot run away from coalition government or coalition's government work in other countries. That may be true, but I'm saying our political leaders are not ready and are not matured enough to deal with this system because of how they do things.
Well, what do you make of what's happening? Well, in the city of Johannesburg now, there is a possible motion of no confidence that will go against Thapelo Ahmed. I don't know, in the past 3 years, this would be what, our third or fourth mayor in the city of Johannesburg, if he is indeed ousted. But I wonder what you make of what the DA leader said this past weekend, to say that he is going to apparently approach some political parties to join the DA in a coalition to unseat the ANC. Obviously, they are the opposition, and one of their jobs is to make sure that they discredit the ANC and take over from them. But what do you make of that ask? Is it a desperate thing already before we go to elections next year? I mean, he's even mentioning parties such as Action SA, which is a breakaway of the DA, essentially.
And that is a typical example that what you see in Johannesburg municipality and in Tshwane and in Ekurhuleni, it's exactly that, because you find political leaders who can't accept defeat, who would want to destabilize the system, because as things stand now, there is this motion of no confidence that is coming. PA, which is a very unreliable party, has already mentioned that they will vote with DA. Few months ago, or recently, they crisscrossed to ANC, and then now, because they don't want ANC anymore, they go back to DA, and it's quite likely that DA will go back and also and lead the municipality. While they do that, ANC and EFF will be galvanizing and do the same thing. Who knows? Maybe PA will again come back to ANC and also they'll do the same thing. So is this instability that they are causing? It's like a mess, it's like a sketch or a drama that these leaders are doing in our country. And really, it's so unfair, because you see leaders who are so immature, leaders who don't know what serving means or what servant leadership means. Because as a leader, you fight for your position, you do everything that you can, but if you are defeated, you respect that and give another party a chance to lead.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Prof, for speaking to us here on eNCA. But like I said to the professor earlier in my question, political parties in South Africa are used to politics of power, using numbers in legislatures and parliament. So I wonder if any of them will be able to let each other go. Professor Mazwe Majola speaking to us there.